The Gaza Strip is facing a dire humanitarian crisis as violence continues to escalate. The recent attacks have resulted in a heavy loss of life, with a devastating impact on Palestinian civilians. The situation is especially critical for children, who are disproportionately affected by the ongoing conflict. The international community watches with growing concern as the situation deteriorates. Gaza's health ministry reports a staggering number of casualties since the beginning of the year. Over 50,000 Palestinians have been confirmed dead, and the number of wounded exceeds 115,000. These figures paint a grim picture of the human cost of this conflict. The situation demands immediate action to prevent further suffering. The intensity of the conflict has had a particularly devastating impact on children. UNRWA reports that an average of 100 Palestinian children have been killed or injured every day since the ceasefire broke on March 18. This horrifying statistic highlights the urgent need for increased protection of civilians, especially the most vulnerable. As the violence continues, the death toll continues to rise. On April 5 alone, at least 29 Palestinians were killed in Israeli attacks across the Gaza Strip. These attacks targeted various locations, including Khan Yunis, Gaza City, and Rafah. The relentless violence has left the population living in a state of constant fear and uncertainty. New video evidence has emerged, shedding light on a shocking attack on aid workers in Gaza. The footage, retrieved from a deceased paramedic's cell phone, shows Israeli forces firing on clearly marked ambulances and a fire truck. The vehicles had their emergency lights on, indicating they were engaged in humanitarian work. The attack, which took place in Rafah on March 23, resulted in the deaths of 15 medics and emergency workers. This incident sparked outrage and condemnation from international organizations and human rights groups. The video directly contradicts Israel's initial claims that the vehicles were advancing suspiciously without headlights or emergency signals. The Palestine Red Crescent Society presented the video evidence to the UN Security Council, demanding accountability for the attack. The bodies of the 15 aid workers were recovered from a mass grave after 5 days of negotiations with the Israeli military. They were found alongside their ambulances and a UN vehicle, highlighting the dangers faced by humanitarian workers in conflict zones. Forensic examination of the bodies revealed multiple gunshots, including wounds to the head, torso, and joints, on 4 of the 5 aid workers examined. This evidence further discredits Israel's initial claims and points to a deliberate attack on humanitarian workers. One paramedic, who was detained and later released by the Israeli military, provided a chilling eyewitness account of the shooting. The ongoing conflict has created a dire humanitarian crisis in Gaza. The Israeli blockade, in place for over a decade, has severely restricted the flow of essential goods and services into the region. This blockade has crippled Gaza's economy and left its population heavily reliant on humanitarian aid. The recent escalation in violence has further exacerbated the humanitarian situation. Hospitals are overwhelmed with casualties and medical supplies are running dangerously low. The destruction of infrastructure has left many without access to clean water, sanitation, and electricity. UNRWA has called for an immediate restoration of the Gaza ceasefire and unimpeded humanitarian access to the region. The organization stressed the urgent need for food, water, medicine, and other essential supplies to reach those in need. The international community must act swiftly to address the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Lifting the blockade is crucial to allowing the flow of essential goods and services. Increased funding for humanitarian organizations working on the ground is also vital to providing immediate relief to the affected population. The international community has expressed deep concern over the escalating violence in Gaza and the mounting humanitarian crisis. The UN High Commissioner for Human Rights called for an independent investigation into the attack on aid workers, suggesting the incident may constitute a war crime. Several countries have called for an immediate ceasefire and a return to negotiations. They have also urged both sides to respect international law and ensure the protection of civilians. The United States, while expressing support for Israel's right to defend itself, has also called for de-escalation and a return to calm. Human rights organizations worldwide have condemned the violence and called for accountability for human rights violations. They have urged the international community to take concrete steps to end the blockade and hold those responsible for the attacks on civilians and aid workers accountable. The situation in Gaza demands a unified international response. A sustainable solution to the conflict must address the root causes of the violence and ensure the human rights and dignity of all people. The international community must work together to pressure all parties to commit to a peaceful resolution and create a future where such tragedies are never repeated.